May I now welcome Honorable Ambassador Christine Grau to give her remarks on the role of development partners in promoting and protecting human rights. Honorable Ambassador, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. I walked a long way behind, so in case I fall, not everybody sees this. So, thank you very much. I would like first to send my greetings to the university representatives. Thank you so much for receiving us here today. Also, the representatives of the Human Rights Association and Human Rights Defender, and I know there's a number of them present here. Thank you so much for being here. The representatives of the government, the parliament, the judiciary, Honorable Joseph Kutiku, first time I meet you, I'm honored. Dear members of the diplomatic corps who are present here as well, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course also dear students who are present, all protocols observed. I'm very honored to be here today at the University of Dar es Salaam to address you among other distinguished speakers. And I would like to thank THRDC very much for organizing this highly interesting event. Let me start from the basic fact. The adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on 10 December 1948 at the UN General Assembly marked an historic turning point. Basic rights and fundamental freedoms were agreed as universal, as a common standard of achievement for all people and all nations. Human rights were defined as inherent, inalienable, and applicable to all human beings. We sometimes forget that there are no separate human rights for different geographical regions. Those universal human rights were agreed for all people and all nations. Since 1948, a multilateral system of core international legal instruments has progressively consolidated the strength of this declaration. And this includes the adoption of its principle in many national constitutions, including the Constitution of Tanzania. From the start, the member states of the European Union, and now also the European Union on its own, considered the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a single coherent construction. There are no first or second class human rights. We reject any instrumental distinction between socio-economic rights and civil political rights. This is a distinction that often serves divisive purposes. The EU itself has a long history of focusing on socio-economic rights for our citizens. There's broad access to healthcare, to education, to ensure pension rights, to help for the vulnerable. With regard to citizens of third countries, the EU has been a strong provider of humanitarian aid to people in crisis and in need, as for example right now the humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people and in many other countries in need around the world. But the EU has also a long-term vision of ensuring rights of citizens in third countries, through providing support to developing countries to ensure that the socio-economic situation will allow a safe and dignified life of people worldwide, which will also facilitate to better respect civil political rights. However, the EU cannot accept any argument aiming at dismissing some categories of fundamental rights as less applicable, less important, or like a kind of luxury rights. We are convinced that truly sustainable development can only take place in democratic societies where citizens enjoy the right to free association, free expression, free assembly, and ultimately free and just elections. True accountability can only apply in democratic societies, which in turn reinforces their development. This is why the EU has been supporting partner countries in the region for decades, including Tanzania, in implementing the principles contained in the Universal Declaration. Over the time, the priorities that we have jointly set with Tanzanian authorities have evolved, but the fundamental values underpinning our role as partner has remained the same.
We integrate the Universal Declaration principles in our development cooperation in various ways. First of all, we fully adhere to the global goals set multilaterally, the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. Secondly, we use a human rights-based approach built on the principle of universality and indivisibility of human rights and the principles of inclusion and participation in decision-making processes. That means non-discrimination, equality and equity, transparency and accountability. Third, we try to implement our actions through a variety of instruments that can be inclusive and accessible by most actors. And we strive to engage with all actors: government, local authorities, civil society, religious association, private sector, and vulnerable groups, respecting the ownership by the beneficiaries of the actions we support. EU external action leaves no one behind, taking care that our action is in line with our commitment to address drivers of inequalities, including gender equality, and to address the often multiple intersection discriminations faced by persons in vulnerable situations. Let me underline that we are proud of having engaged in dialogue on human rights at all levels in Tanzania. We hold consultations with the organization STAR-HDC, which is hosting us today, and which I congratulate again for this commemoration. We also enter in political dialogue with the government, setting human rights on our agenda and stating our ideas, proposals, and concerns where relevant. Let me conclude on this point of open dialogue among and between partners. Multilateralism is key to achieve our common objective to secure and implement human rights. Both the EU and Tanzania are committed to this, and we need to permanently reinforce our commitment on working in the multilateral system. Let us not shy away from discussing our views. We have already a strong multilateral system, also reflected in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the right basis. Multilateralism protects not only so-called smaller actors, but allows an adequate framework to find common ways to progress further for the benefit of us all. And we believe in our common humanity. The Universal Declaration protects us all, and there are no cultural exceptions to the most fundamental values. This is not contradicting or valuing protecting diversity, but they should not be used as an excuse to decrease the validity or the universality of human rights. It is simply a non-option. And let me close now by saying that also with referring to this discussion at the beginning, I think people like Onesmo, when we enter here, this building of the university, our hearts open up because we are, I would say, the mature generation. We have all gone through being at universities, and I understand that this university has had a highly strongly tradition of discussions, of exchanges and so on. So I hope that this highly interesting program will allow you to exchange on these elements of human rights, and I wish you a lot of fun on this. Asante sana.